Good morning, everyone. I missed the mark. I almost missed the mark. I forgot that we shortened the opening. Welcome to Bid Nerds, everybody. My name is John Polnik. I'm your host in Las Vegas Container Park, along with my partner, Michael Deeb, and very special guest, Naveed. Hello, Naveed. How are you, sir?
Yo, what's up, guys? Thank you for having me. Excited
you
to
came
be
back
here.
for another episode. You're not. You weren't turned off by hanging out with these two yahoos, chuckleheads.
Nope. Now you're gonna have trouble getting rid of me now.
Excellent.
Yeah,
All right.
perfect.
We're gonna have to make more panels. If you're watching the show and you're not listening to this on a podcast, we have our little format all broken up into three. It's a panel now instead of just two yahoos. It's an actual real bunch of experts that, well, at least 2 out of 3 don't know what they're talking about. So at least we got one now that does. Michael Deeb, you are in San Francisco. Naveed, you're in San Francisco too, right? So actually,
No.
no. Well, where are you at?
No,
Naveed?
I'm in the East Bay.
You're in
I'm
East
in
Bay.
the East Bay
okay.
in Fremont.
Well,
Yeah.
see, he's
Yeah.
like, no, it's to the rest of us who aren't in the Bay
JP.
Area. Same dang place.
JP.
Yeah.
Naveed's on the Lower East Side.
That'd be like for us Vegas people. No, he's in Henderson. It's the same damn. Shut up. It's the same place. All right. Welcome to the show, everyone. If you are new to the nerds, you're checking this out because you heard Naveed's going to be here. You're going, what is this whole Bid Nerds thing about?
Yeah.
What we do is we find the most interesting car of the day from all the auction sites, like Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, and more. We find that most interesting car, and we have a discussion about the car and its listing, and then we make a prediction as to what's going to happen with that car's results. At the end of the episode, we reconcile our predictions with what actually happens. And we usually have a lot of egg on our face because 2 out of 3 don't know what the heck we're talking about on this show. So thanks for hanging out with us. You can play along and put your bid in the comments below. We encourage you to do so. So we are going to get to today's car, but first, we want to encourage you to hit the subscribe, like, and notification button if you haven't done that already.
Smash!
And Michael Deeb, you want to talk about God and Porsche a little bit? They are pretty awesome for supporting us, huh?
Absolutely. If you have any questions about your classic Porsche, if you need parts, if you need service, or if you're just looking for a car, either to buy or sell, contact our friends at God and Porsche in Las Vegas. They are the very first classic partner in North America. They have the experts, they have the tools, they have the time, and they have the heart. They're really good people. Talk to God and Porsche. Tell them the Bid Nerd sent you.
Excellent. All right. Well, here we go. Naveed, are you excited about today's most interesting car?
Hell yeah.
He's
Let's
like,
do it.
hell yeah. All right, Michael Deeb, let's go ahead and get right to it. What do we got?
So, JP, our really good friend, John Alcantara of Las Vegas, Nevada, has offered for submission this 2004 Ferrari Challenge Stradale that is on Doug DeMuro's Cars and Bid site. Now, part of the reason is that John Alcantara is in the market for a 360 Challenge Stradale, and I guess I'm his friend that actually worked for Ferrari for a short period of time, so we talk about Ferraris all the time. So John is looking at this car. He wanted to know what we thought about it, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity to cover this car and get into it. So, out of Moore Park, California, on Cars and Bids is this 11,000-mile example. JP, you might remember about a week ago, we covered a 458 that didn't have any options on it. This car would be the polar opposite to this. This is a Rosso Corsa, carbon fiber everything, limited edition. We're talking one of 1,288 ever made for the world. And this is a number I don't think I was aware of. It's only one of 378 that was imported into the United States in 2004. And Ferrari only made this car for 1 year. So by the numbers, this car is more rare than an F40. Let that sink in for just a second, because they think they made like 1,325 F40s. They basically made like 50 less of this car, which is unbelievable. It's a super rare car. The other thing that's become a really big deal in the secondary market for the Challenge Stradale is that, in my opinion, rather hideous racing stripe. Some of the cars had the stripe painted on at the factory, and then a lot of cars that didn't get it got decals put on. So a lot of times when you're looking at a car, the stripe is on there, but it's really important because if it was painted on by the factory, I don't know how to quantify this, but people pay a premium for painted stripe Challenge Stradales. Well, this car is a painted stripe from the factory. It's super low miles. It looks to be in outstanding condition, and it's got all the bells and whistles. The list of options on this car is like 24 deep. And again, that would have been unusual on a regular 2004 car, but that's par for the course for one of these limited edition Challenge Stradales. This car has what you're looking for, John. That being said, John thought that this car might be had for a, like some sort of concession, because he was saying to me candidly that he thinks Cars and Bids doesn't quite bring the money. And I'm afraid I'm going to have to disagree with you, John. Doug DeMuro's been in the spotlight since the beginning of the year. He's been growing his channel and his auction platform, and he's now starting to sell successfully supercars, contemporary supercars, where he hadn't before. He's doing that now. This car checks all the right boxes, and I think it's going to do really well here. I don't think John is going to be able to steal it. John, if you want this one, I think you're going to have to pay retail for it. So before we get into the numbers, I'm going to pass it over to you, Naveed, and ask you, have you driven a Challenge Stradale? If not, have you driven a 360? And what do you think of the car? I've actually been a huge fan of this car. The Scuderia and the 458 Speciality that came after that, I think were slightly more refined cars. I actually think this car is a raw. Doug DeMuro uses the word angrier in his description on the site, and I would not make fun of him for that. This car has an edge to it, and I would actually say has probably more in common with an F40 than it does with the cars that came after it. It was Ferrari's first attempt to take, the car that they built for the racing series and sort of homologate it for the street. And all they did was put the bare minimum things they needed into it. So it's not really a luxury car in the true sense of the Ferrari. It's more like a racing car in the true sense of the Challenge series. So I'm really proud of them for making this car and limiting the number and not going crazy with it. It was a successful car, and I think they've aged really well. I love this car. Do you feel the same way, Naveed? Do you like it? Do you have any experience with it?
Experience-wise, I mean, unfortunately, I have not had the chance to drive a 360 or even a 360 CS, but I have seen a couple of them in person. And I mean, there's a lot to unpack here in terms of value, but I will say that, in my opinion, this car is basically like the 996 GT3 RS of the Ferrari world, right? It's like it's the in between of, like, the 355 was everybody's like glory 90s Ferrari because of the noise and the look. And then the F430 was everybody in the 2000s, including myself. I mean, F430 Scuderia is one of my dream Ferraris. So it's like it's the in-between unloved child kind of. But I feel like most recently in the last like year especially, people are finally starting to realize, like, wait a minute, this is aging really well, and it's possible to get it with 3 pedals. And then on top of that, they have special versions of it like the CS. So yeah. I think it's starting to get the appreciation that it actually deserves.
Yeah. John, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, come on, it's a Ferrari and it's a special edition. Naveed's right. This is the sport version of it. It's just such a bummer that cars like this don't get driven. So often it's like when Porsche, introduced the 964 RS. That was a car that cost less than all the other 964s on the showroom floor. And then once all the manufacturers realized that people will pay extra money for these kind of sport purpose cars with fewer things, then all of a sudden the collectors started gobbling them up, and the cars that were meant to be driven are the least likely to be driven. And that's just an absolute shame as far as I'm concerned. I've never driven one of these. I've driven 360s with the 3 pedals and loved them.
Awesome.
Looking at this car, Naveed, you said that they did make 3 pedal versions of this version, right? Or what? Or did they not? Or was it just the F1?
No, as far as I know, I think CSs only came with F1.
Okay, so the CSs came with the paddles. All right. Yeah, because I've driven 3 pedal 360s and loved the car. And frankly, I would rather, but I'm kind of a basic bitch. I would rather buy a 360 with the 3 pedals and mod it, because I don't care about preserving. I don't care about any of that stuff. Make it cool. I think you could make a car very similar to this one out of a 360 with 3 pedals, and it wouldn't be worth as much as this, but I wouldn't give a rat's ass. I don't care how much it's worth. I care about driving it. And this thing sure looks like it would be a hell of a lot of fun, even with only 2 pedals. But yeah, for my money, if I'm spending the money on a Ferrari, it should be a gated transmission. What do you think of that, Naveed?
I could not agree with you more. It is
Really?
unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate to see this thing with only 11,000 miles on it. Like, this is something that should basically live at like the perfect situation for this car would be if you're a rich dude who lives at thermal, buy this and leave it there and just drive it on track every single day. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely. Yeah. Spare set of wheels with a fresh set of tires every time.
Right.
Yep.
All right,
That's
Michael
all you
Deeb.
need.
Well, what are these things worth? What's John?
Yeah.
And for the record, everyone that's watching the show or listening, Deeb has been mentioning our friend John Alcantara, who is in the market for this. And then he kept mentioning John. Don't think I'm in the market for this. I'm not buying this thing. Our friend John Alcantara. So let's refer to John from here on out as Alcantara, so there's no confusion. You people thinking that I have any money, because I don't. I ain't buying this thing.
Alcantara, JP and I are professional podcasters, and by professional it means we have a single sponsor. But Alcantara sells money. He's doing well. He can afford this even at a retail price. It's interesting because these cars, for a lot of times they were around $200,000, and then they moonshot it up to about $300,000, and then a few years ago they fell back down. Well, now they've gone back up for a second time, and so John gave us a bid, or at least I'm going to hold him to a bid.
Alcantara.
So, Alcantara gave us a bid. All right, so our car, Naveed, is sitting at $215,000, $215,500 on 9 bids, and it's got about 3 days before it closes. Alcantara was hoping that he's a player up to about $250,000 on this car. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to go $275,000. So Alcantara is at 250. I'm at 275. Naveed, what do you think it's going to take to buy this car on Cars and Bids in a couple days from now?
I haven't been able to go into like the heavy details as to whether like the belt service and all that stuff has been done on this car. But thinking everything is 100% up to date and perfect and it doesn't need anything, I'm going to say 265. That's where I'm at.
265. Good bid. JP, where are you at?
Splitting the difference. I'm going to split the difference. He's at 265. Deeb, you're at 275?
Yep, you're going to go 270?
I'm going to go 270. This is a lot of car, and the amount of money that we're seeing people buy 458s for. I mean, Naveed, what do you think? Would you rather have a newer 458 or this thing? I mean, because you can't get a 458 with a 3-pedal. So which car would you rather have?
Oh, man, dude. 458s are so good. So good. So I think I would lean probably more toward. This is one of the very rare instances where I would take a little bit of a newer Ferrari than the older one, and that's only because
a newer, more like pedestrian version of the 458, not a Stradale, or a Challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I want like. If it were me, I would want a 100,000 mile 458 that could just beat the shit out of all day. So.
That would be cool. That would be all right on. Does that exist?
Naveed,
does anybody have a 100,000 mile 458 out there? We sure want to hear about it.
They definitely. There's some people out there. There's one locally here that has 80,000 miles on it. So.
Nice.
Hey, Naveed, have you heard of anybody doing a 6-speed swap on a 458? Like they do it on 430s, and 360. But has anybody done that'd be really cool. 458 with a manual would be bitching.
Yeah, I forgot the name of the shop, but I'm pretty sure there's a place in Florida that just did one like a month ago. It was like going
458. Are you really?
Yeah, it was a manual 458 conversion.
That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be
with a German gearbox. It'll be a good
all right, guys. What do you think out there? What's the nerd herd think? Now is the time to plug in your bids. You've heard the panel of would-be experts. Do you think we are all wrong? Is this car going to make 300 because it's a special edition car, or is this something that's just going to peter out because it's got those ugly headlights? Like everyone says about 996s, the 36s are maligned with those silly-looking headlights. Now is the time to plug it in. Let's see what you got to say, Ross, and Family Guy 5150, and all the other famous nerd herd followers out there. We want to hear from you guys. Hit the subscribe, like, and notification button. We're going to find out what the results of this challenge car are Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden, this guy.
1989 linen gray metallic G50 cab.
Is that gonna be for sale?
It is going to be for sale. The car only has 65,000 miles.
Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas.
If you love watching car videos on YouTube, you gotta check out my channel, The Rami Show. Oh, this car! I am driving a 2020 Lamborghini SVJ. This car, watch this. Oh! 115 mile an hour turn, like it's nothing.
Like it's nothing.
Nothing.
Much like a lot of San Francisco bank accounts there. But boom! It's the future.
Too soon,
Welcome
too
to it. When we record this show, it was back in the past. Now we're in the future. Sometimes, if you've ever seen any of these time machine shows where they go into the future, you don't know what the future is going to be when you get there. Have the dinosaurs taken over? Has a meteor hit the planet? It kind of feels like that today on a Monday morning in a lot of the financial sectors. Some crazy stuff going on, and what we do is we talk about the most interesting car of the day from all the auction sites, and we make predictions as to what's going to happen with those auctions. Well, it's going to be a little interesting this week. Watching closes. Now, the car that we were talking about here didn't close today. It closed last week before a bunch of stuff going on. So let's get right to the results of this Ferrari.
John, this is a real interesting one, right? So what we're looking at is the 2004 360 Challenge Stradale on Cars and Bids. You remember Alcantara submitted the car to us, and what was his bid? I can't remember what his bid was, but Naveed was on the show with us. He said 265. I said 275,000. John, you were right in the middle at 270 grand. Now, our car failed to sell last week at $261,000, $4,000 below the low bidder, who was Naveed, at 22 bids. But as we open our computers this morning, Cars and Bids is proud to report that the car sold after, although they do not disclose the amount that the car was closed for. So it appears that they got together with the consignor, perhaps the high bidder, and of course their own offices to strike a deal between the three parties involved with this auction lot. So while we don't know the final number, Cars and Bids is happy to report that the car is sold. So the seller must be happy that the deal has struck. Presuming that it was the high bidder, I'm sure is thrilled because probably only got it for a couple $1,000s more. And there you go. While we don't know the final result, I would probably think, JP, it's closer to your number or my number than to Naveed's at this point, but I don't know. We're really just speculating. This car struck, I think, all the right chords, being Rosso Corsa, super low miles, and having the painted stripe, and relatively recent services. This looks like, if you're in the market for a Challenge Stradale, this is probably the one you want. This is the poster child of the car with all the decals and the red Alcantara and all that other stuff. So, John Alcantara, thank you for submitting this car. I wish you would get one so we could just go out and drive yours and maybe race Rami in his Lamborghini and have you on the Rami show with that thing. Because this is also, John, this is one of the best sounding Ferraris they ever made. That motor absolutely screams. I'm super jealous. This is a car I would love to own for myself. I hope Alcantara gets one because I'm sure he'll let me drive it. JP, I send it back to you. Interesting result. This is something we've seen a couple times now where maybe it looks like the car failed to sell, but in the hours or the days just after, they haven't let go of the deal, and they've struck a deal on an important kind of rather expensive car. I think the first time we saw it, JP, remember, it was on a 997 GT3. So they've done it again.
Yeah, I like the idea that the auction platform is doing a little bit more than just saying, hey, we're a dating service and we're going to put two parties together and good luck. It's nice to see them kind of getting out there and being a little bit proactive. Naveed was saying that as Doug DeMuro has taken a lot of this investment money that it seems like the service level has increased there. We haven't seen a lot of changes in maybe the aesthetic of the overall site, which I still think needs improvement, or at least a drive for aesthetic on the listings. But the fact that there's people out there, at Cars and Bids that are trying to put the parties together and to get deals closed between the people who are trying to sell and the people who are trying to buy. That's great. That's terrific. That's what they should be doing. That should be one of the benefits of using these services. So yeah, on top of that too, I mean, nobody makes any money if the deal doesn't get done. So it behooves them to be proactive in that regard, right?
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you a question, JP, because I actually don't know the answer as I'm trying to think about this. We see with BAT that as the buyer, your commission is capped at $5,000. So if you pay, $100,000 for a car, or if you pay $300,000 for a car, you're still paying $5,000. What does the buyer pay on Cars and Bids? I can't remember. And I know.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't recall if it's capped. I kind of assumed that it was, but I don't actually know.
Seems relevant here because they might have bridged the gap, as perhaps another listing that we looked at this week will show us that is possible, where the platform can come in and help strike a deal by sacrificing a part of their commission in order to move the unit along. It seems like it's relevant as to what Cars and Bids has invested in this thing selling, because it's a arguably over a $250,000 car.
Yeah, if they want more cars like this to come to the platform, they're going to need to get them sold. If somebody comes on with a $250,000 car and it doesn't happen, how many people are going, maybe I should go to BAT.
Absolutely.
So good job on for Doug DeMuro. Kudos to you for making it happen. I sure would like to know. It's kind of a bummer though that we don't know what the number was.
Yeah, right. Oh man, I wish we did. I really wish we did. But I would say for Doug DeMuro, still, even even by today's standards, a 360 Challenge Stradale with 10,000 miles and no stories, that's a high profile lot for him. So for him to put the sold after, bid to 261, but it was sold after, and then kind of, keep it disclosed or undisclosed. It's interesting. I'm glad we covered this one. Again, Alcantara, thanks for sending this over. Really curious. It leaves me really wanting to know more, but I think these cars are worth more than 261. So I have to think that the final number is probably closest to you, JP, or maybe to me. I don't think this would stay in the Feeds neighborhood at 265.
With all the craziness that's going on in the markets right now, do we think that, and we'll talk more in depth about some of that stuff maybe in a future episode, but do we think that this is the type of car, being a special car, that will weather the storm better than, say, a more run-of-the-mill Ferrari, kind of like that, what was it, a 458 that we talked about last week?
Yeah.
It was kind of like no frills, kind of regular, if you can call it that, Ferrari.
Right. In the last 10 years, we've seen values on these fluctuate, pretty dramatically, but certainly not as much as the sort of lesser, or in the terms of Ferrari speak, more widely produced. Again, when you go to the numbers, they made like 1,300 of these, and that's a small run of cars for Ferrari. Ferrari's, even their special cars now, they make closer to 2,000, 2,500 of them. So for there only to be 1,300 examples for the world for this model, I'd say that this should be arguably a little more stable place to park your money in an Italian asset like this. But they are not recession proof. If the market goes down, the value of this car will drop. So, and we've seen it happen before. Not that many years ago, when the Porsche market was about as soft as you and I can remember, JP, you could have picked up this car for around $200,000. So the fact that this is picked up $75,000 is a reflection of the market and the inflation, I think, and less than the car itself. So I don't know. I'm talking in circles at this point. I don't know, man. It's a limited edition. It's a special edition. It ticks all the right boxes, and it's low miles. This should be a safe place to put your money. But these days, John, I don't think anything's safe.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, and like we've said in past episodes, if your money's going to be stuck somewhere, it may as well be in a really awesome car that you can go
Yeah.
and drive. If you're going to have something
Rip
devalue because of inflation, it may as well, or rather deflation, or the stagflation, whatever. We can get into that stuff. But yeah, if you're going to be stuck with an asset, I'm pretty happy to be stuck with an old Porsche or an old Ferrari over a 10-year bond at 2%. Let's go ahead and finish this one up. We will be back tomorrow with the most interesting car of the day from all the automotive enthusiast auction sites. Thanks again to our friends over at Godden Classic. Go visit them if you are currently looking for a classic Porsche or to service one. Bye. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and
Get those words!
Nerd!